Yesterday we were okay. So what we have done yesterday, we have done till here about the ad hoc, different types of testing like sanity, smoke, regression, and user acceptance testing, right? So this all we have done. We have a more number of types of testing, but here we have covered only important types of testing. So going forward, we will cover the more definition in terms of types of testing. Okay, so now today what we will discuss a new topic. So today we will discuss about the testing principles. So as I'm not sure whether you are aware of this or not, but we have a 7 testing principles. This it's a main thing is that you should know. You know, like being working in the IT industry, you should know the testing principles, right? So we have a like 7 testing principles. So the first one is testing shows the presence of defects. So second point is exhaustive testing is not possible. Third principle is early testing. Fourth is defect clustering. Okay, then we have a fifth is pesticide paradox. Then sixth is testing is context dependent. And seventh principle is absence of errors fallacy. Okay, so yeah, so these are the 7 principles. If you can see this diagram, okay, that's what we have done. Seven testing principles, the numeric 7. Okay, so here we have a testing. First, yes, testing shows the presence of defects. Exhaustive testing is impossible. Third principle is early testing. Fourth is defects clustering. Fifth is pesticide paradox. And sixth is testing is context dependent. And seventh is absence of errors fallacy. Okay, so you have to learn these 7 principles by the name. Now I will cover into deep what does it mean by. So first is testing shows presence of defects. Okay, so testing an application, why it is important? What is the aim of testing any application? Our main aim to test any application is to find out the error or defect. Okay, so any testing you are doing, the aim of testing is to find out the defects. Okay, so the main objective is to find more and more hidden defects using the method of testing. You have to find out more and more number of defects. Okay, if even if you are unable to find any defects, then even you can't say that software is defect free, because none of the software is 100% defect free, right? It's just you give your best to find out the defects and make the software stable. So the first principle is testing should show the presence of defects. Suppose you are testing a whole day, you start your testing at 7 a.m. in the morning, and you are kept on doing testing till 7 p.m. but you are unable to find a single defect. That means your testing is not good enough to find out the defect. Okay, so testing itself means if defect is there, that means you are a good tester. Second principle is exhaustive testing is not possible. That means you can test the application with a number of combinations, right? For example, you have a text box in the Gmail where you have to give you have a text box for the password. When you have to open your Gmail account, you have to give your username and password. Okay, so suppose in the password, it asks you, please take the characters, one case sensitive, alphabets, special characters, numbers. So that means it is the permutation and combination of a different parameters, okay, in the password. So that is possible, right? But you cannot take any invalid combinations. Suppose Suppose the password field is saying that it is accepting alpha characters, alphanumeric, and the numbers. So that doesn't mean you are giving 10,0,0,0,0 or you are giving 10 percentage sign. No, it should be little bit valid, right? You cannot give anything. Like you cannot give anything. So sometimes it is difficult to test all the functionalities with valid and invalid combination of data during actual testing. That means sometimes we can check with few combinations, but not with all the combinations. So, so that kind of a combination called exhaustive testing, which is not every time possible. We can only test few combinations, and that is based on priority. We cannot we cannot test by taking the unlimited combination. Suppose in the you have to check for the password text box. Okay, so you have to check for the password field, right? So when you are checking for the password field, you try giving only characters. That is a one combination. Then you try giving in the password characters and numbers. This is the second condition. Then you try giving 5 times percentage and one character. Then you will give full stop, full stop, full stop, 7 correct and 8 number. So this way you can create a different combination, but you cannot create all the combinations with numbers, alphanumeric numbers, with numeric numbers, and with characters. You can make plenty of combinations, 1,000 or more than that, but you cannot test with all the 1,000 combination. Okay, so exhaustive testing is not possible. That means testing with all the 1,000 combination is not possible. We have to prioritize few combination and we will test the application by taking few combination. Unlimited efforts, it's not required. So we, and also we do have a certain timeline. Suppose you have to test the application in 15 days. If you are testing only password field for 5-10 days, then when you will complete your next work? Okay, so you have to take the project timelines also into the consideration. Okay, then the third point is early testing. That means we already discussed that it's better if we will find the defects in the early phase, during the requirement analysis phase. Suppose when you got the requirement and first time when you are analyzing the application, when you are seeing the application, so it's better you find out more number of defects during the early phase. It should not like you have completed the testing of the complete Facebook application. Then when we have to deliver the application to the client, then you are saying, boss, we have some defects. So that is not the professional way, because that impact the cost also, right? So then in fixing those defects includes cost, because the developers who is fixing the bug, company has to pay their salary as well, right? So the cost involved in fixing such defects is very less when compared to those are found during the later stage. That means the company will be get benefited if you are finding defect in the early phase. If you are finding the defect in the later phase, when project is about to end, that time company has to invest extra money, because again they have to uh, hire the development resource and make them to fix that defects. So it's better we find out defects in the early phase of a testing. Okay, then we have a defect. Then we have a fifth principle is defect clustering. Okay, so defect clustering is nothing. It is based on the Pareto principle. That means more number of defects are related to the small number of modules. That means it will follow the Pareto principle. where you can detect 80% of the problem in 20% of the modules, right? Suppose you have a Facebook application, so majority of your problems is in few modules, not in all the modules. So it's better you take few modules and test thoroughly. So that means you can find more number of defects by testing a few modules, not the every modules. Okay, so that is called the defect clustering. Then sixth point, we have a pesticide paradox. By the name itself, it is the English language word. Pesticide paradox means you cannot work like a parrot. That means you cannot keep doing the same work again and again, again and again. That will waste your energy, your time, and companies money, companies funds. Okay, that means if you are executing the same set of test cases again and again over the period of time, then these set of tests cannot identify new defects in the system. If you are doing same work again and again, again and again, that makes that help you nowhere, right? You have to see, you have to be very smart while testing the application. You can't do like a parrot that you are suppose you have already tested username, password field and sign in button. You have already tested, but again and again you are doing the same thing. Since morning you have already tested 20 times. Username text box, password field, sign in, again and again you are doing. So that is just wasting your energy and time. So you can't be a pesticide paradox. That means you can't be a parrot and doing same thing again and again. You have to use your mind. Boss, I have already tested username, password and sign in. So now going forward, I have to test the other functionalities. Why I am wasting time for the same thing again and again? Repetition of testing should not be done again and again. I mean to say, you can test twice, thrice, but not more than that. You are not a parrot that you are testing again and again the same thing. Okay, you can use your brain to test other functionalities, because at the last you have to test the complete Facebook application. You are being responsible for testing the complete application. So you have to be smart enough to take care of all the parameters, right? So you cannot waste your time for one functionalities again and again. Then the sixth principle is testing is context dependent. That means we have a different kind of applications from different domains. Suppose we have an application for McDonald's. Everyone eats burger, right? So McDonald's also have one kind of application. Domino's also have one kind of application. For the shopping thing, you have a Mantra, Nika. Okay, now SGFC also have one kind of application. State Bank of India also has one kind of application, right? So different. So these are from different domains. You have a different domain, like you can say you have a financial domain where all the application comes related to the financial transaction, banking and all. You have an insurance domain where you have a Bupa, Max Life insurance application. For you have the e-commerce website where you have a Mantra, Nika and everything. You have the telecom domain application where it deals with the telecom appliances. Then also you have a application based on the airline domain, right? On that baggage and everything, these all are managed. Flight, when it is coming, when going, these all are managed by the application that is based on the airline domain. So testing is context dependent, means testing is dependent on you are testing which kind of a application. Okay, so that means there are various domains available in the market, and each domain has a number of applications. For each domain, their applications have different requirement, different functions, different kind of a testing. That means banking applications requires different kind of a testing. They have a different requirements, right? and McDonald's or Domino's application have a different requirements. Okay, airline application have a different requirements. So that means you have to test the application based on the different domains or different application, right? So that is, so by the name itself, it is context dependent, it is domain dependent. Then the last principle is absence of errors fallacy. That means if you are, if the software is tested fully and you are saying, boss, I have already tested the application, right? And now our software is defect free. I have already tested. Now they will, you cannot find any defect. So that is not possible, because sometime it's happened that you are unable to find any defect, but in the client environment or in some other environment, someone can find that defect. Okay, so that means if the software is tested against wrong requirements, okay, and you are finding defect and fixing them, that means you are wasting your time. Suppose for example, uh, suppose for example you have suppose Facebook logo is blue in color, okay, is blue in color, and you have ignored the color combination, and you are and you are logging defect that Facebook logo should be white in color. So that defect is of no use, right? Because fixing of that defect is just a wastage of the time. Fine. So you should be smart enough while raising any defect. You should know what kind of a defect you are raising. You cannot raise the defect on the basis of the wrong requirement, incorrect requirement. You cannot log defect for any random thing. It should be requirement based. So for example, suppose you are testing an application related to an e-commerce site. Okay, e-commerce means all the shopping sites, McDonald's, all these where you are selling the product. That is called the e-commerce site. Okay, suppose you are testing an application related to an e-commerce site and the requirements against shopping cart or shopping basket functionality is wrongly interpreted and tested. That means finding more number of defects would not help you in the next phase. That means if you are not aware of the correct requirement, what you have to test, if you are not aware of the correct requirement, and if you are testing wrongly and finding defect, that's of no help. That is just you are wasting your time. Okay, so these are 7 principles. Okay, you only remember these 7 principles because from the software testing point of view, it will come in the software testing basics. Okay, you don't go into the deep. Okay, you just understand the concept and remember that 7 principles. If someone asks you, boss, please let us know the 7 principles, then you can give these 7 principles. See, either you work here, either you work in any company, okay, you should know all these things. Otherwise, no company, or like you have to be special out of all, right? If why company would hire you, why company should hire you, right? If suppose there are 20 candidates and company has to hire 10 candidates, so who they 10 will be? They 10 will be those who are clear in their basic concepts. Okay, so you should understand, you don't learn like a parrot. Okay, understand the concept as well and remember the technical terms. Okay, remember 7 principles and you can explain to anyone in your own language as well. Just understand the concepts. Okay, so this is the one thing. 7 testing principles. This we have covered 7 kind of a testing principles. This is the diagram. By the name itself, numeric 7 is displaying. Okay, and we have taken in deep. It's a very simple English language. If you will revise it twice, you will be easy. You are like, it's very easy to remember on these points. Okay, So now this is the one thing which we have covered today. Now let's start with something something very important and very different. Okay, this is something very important. Defect in software testing. Okay. Yeah, defect in software testing. One second. I hope I am audible and everyone can see my screen. Can anyone please type on the message? Everything is fine, right? Am I audible and everyone can see my screen? Anyone can type? Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Yeah. Okay. So now this is a very important topic. Please be focused and concentrate here. This is the being a software tester. It's very important thing. Okay. So defect in software testing. Okay. So whenever, one second, sir. Okay, one second. By the name itself, defect. Defect can be anywhere. Defect, uh, when you are going to buy any stuff in the shop, right? Any clothes or something, that cloth can be torn. You can say, boss, this is a defective piece. Defect can be anywhere. So same ways, when programmer will work on the code part, or a programmer means developer. When developer will work on the code part, and if he find any fault in the code, so he can also raise the defect. I mean to say, that is the internal defect. From the testing, he is not raising a defect. He's just saying, "Ki boss, this code has some issues," and he can check with their architect or the higher management. So this is the one thing. Then we have, in other words, we can say, when the application is not working as per the requirement, that is also a defect. That means when application is working as per the requirement, then everything is fine. Suppose your requirement is that Facebook logo should be blue in color, Facebook background should be blue in color, that is your requirement. And if when application is given to you and you can see, yeah, Facebook logo is blue in color and application has a blue background, it's fine, everything fine, then there is no defect. But if Facebook logo displaying yellow in color and it should be blue in color, that means it is a defect. So your defect is that Facebook logo is displaying in yellow in color, but the requirement says that it should be blue in color. Okay. So when application is not working as per the requirement, this is called the defect. Very simple. Also, when the actual when there is a deviation in the actual and expected output of the application. Deviation means actual should be, actual is, it is Facebook logo is displaying yellow in color. This is actual. Because when Facebook application is given to you for testing, you can see that it is displaying in yellow in color. But it should be, but as per the client, it should be blue in color. So actual is yellow in color. Actual means whatever displaying from your eyes, like when you are seeing the application, whatever displaying, that is actual. And expected is what client has given you in the requirement document. So if actual is not matched with the expected, that means there is a deviation, it's a defect. Okay, so as you can see in the fourth point also it is mentioned, the defect is the difference between the actual outcome and the expected outcome. Okay, so these two definitions are important. The defect is the difference between the actual and the expected, and when application is not working as per the requirement, that is also a defect. Okay, so yeah, one second. Okay, so these two definitions are important. Anyone can ask you, boss, what is the defect? And if you are unable to answer, then they will get to know that you don't know anything. So better you remember these two applications for the defect. Okay, then we have a, yeah, test engineer can identify the defect, test engineer can raise the defect, and development team or the developer can fix the defect. Always remember, Tester can log the defect. Developers can't log the defect. Developers can fix the defect. One can find the defect or the fault, and the other can fix the defect. Okay, so the test engineer can identify the defect and it was fixed by the developer in the development phase of the software development life cycle. Developer will fix it in their while doing software development life cycle. When a test engineer tests a piece of code, suppose you have one module and you have to test it. Okay, then you come across differences in expected output to the existing, which is also known as a defect. That means deviation in actual versus expected. Same thing. Suppose you are testing a piece of code and you can see that the expected behavior is different what you are seeing actually, right? That is also a defect. It's just a difference of language. Otherwise, the main thing is very simple. Deviation between the actual and the expected is called a defect. And if application is not working as per the requirement, that is also a defect. Okay, fine. Very simple. Then, okay, then we have a very important thing anyone can ask you. This is the most important topic in the complete software testing life cycle. That is the defect life cycle. Okay, what is a defect life cycle? So the defect life cycle, first of all, it is also known as bug life cycle, because bug and defect life cycle both are the same term. Okay, it is the process in which bug goes through different stages in its entire journey. Okay, so these are some steps which whenever you will log any bug has to go through all these stages, all these states. Okay, so this is the very important diagram. Okay, the first stage of bug is new. Whenever you found any log, suppose you are sitting and you are testing a Facebook application and you found one fault or one defect, that time that defect status is new, because you just now find it and it is the new. Okay, then after finding the defect, what is your next step? You will assign that defect to the developer. Okay, so that when you have assigned the defect to a developer, suppose Akash is a tester and Rahul is a developer. When Akash found a new defect in the Facebook application, that time its defect status is new. Okay, when Akash assigned that defect to Rahul, Rahul is a developer, that was this is on your name, you have to fix it. That time defect is in a state of assigned. Okay, anyone can, yeah, defect is in a state of assigned because it has already been assigned to the developer. Okay, then we have a, yeah, then after you assign to the Rahul, then Rahul said, okay, this defect has been assigned to me, so let me open this defect and go through it, how to fix it. So that time he will mark the status of the defect as open, that now I have started working on it, so this is the open defect. I am in progress with the fixing of this defect. So that time it is in the open state. Then when suppose today the defect is in the open state, Rahul is working since morning to fix the issue. Okay, so he's like spending 4 5 hours fixing the code and .NET Java, whatever is the code he's fixing. After he find, boss, now my defect, that defect is fixed. Hey, I have fixed that defect. Everything is fine. Okay, then he will change the status to the fixed, that this defect is fixed now. This is no longer open. Now I am not working. It is fixed. It is completed from development side. Okay. Then again, what Rahul will do? Now Rahul will assign that fixed defect to the tester to retest. So he will assign back that defect to the Akash. Akash is a tester. Akash, I have fixed it. Now you can retest it again and let me know whether this defect is fixed or not. Then Akash will retest it. Akash will again test it. And then if Akash find it that everything is fine, now the defect is fixed, he will mark the status as closed. Closed means closed. This defect is closed. This defect is no longer present in the application now. This defect is closed from our side. Now no one has to work. Neither tester nor the development team. No one has to work. Okay. This defect is closed now. This is simply closed. So, so these all are the phases or the states which any defect has to go through. Okay, kind of a framework, kind of a steps, kind of a stages which bug has to go through. Okay, so yeah, so so now you can see there are other stages as well. So suppose when you find any defect, when Akash being a tester find any defect, the defect is in the new state. When he will assign to the Rahul, the development team, it will be in the assigned state. Okay, when Rahul start working on the defect, it will be in the open state. When Rahul fix that defect, okay, then that defect is in the fixed state. Okay, then Rahul will again send it back to the Akash to retest. If Akash find after retesting, if Akash find everything goes well, that defect is fixed now, then Akash will close that defect. Okay, but if Akash find that again it is not working after Rahul has fixed, again it is not working fine, then what Akash will do? Akash will reopen the defect. He will again reopen the defect. He will not mark it as closed because that defect has still not fixed. It is still not closed. So what he will do? He will again assign back to the Akash. Akash, this is still not fixed. Okay, please fix it again. That time, Akash will make the status as reopen. That it is again open. It is still not fixed. Okay, so this is the one state. Okay, now this is the one thing. Okay, now you can see here we have a duplicate, rejected, deferred. So always remember, whenever any tester found any defect, okay, whenever suppose you are a tester, your name is Akash, and you found any defect, that time defect is new defect. You have found a fresh defect. Okay, then when you assign to the Rahul, the developer, boss, uh, I am assigning to you. Okay, when you are signing, after assigning, when developer will open the defect, will see what you have assigned. If he founds that defect is duplicate, means that some other tester has already raised the defect and you are again doing it duplicate, that time he will mark the defect as duplicate because he already has the same kind of a defect which is being logged by some other tester XYZ. Okay, so he will mark it as duplicate. Why he will work on the duplicate defects? He already has one defect and you are raising it, you are logging it again. So he will mark it as duplicate. Okay, then your defect has no meaning. Okay, because this is duplicate. And this is the one scenario. Second, if after assigning, if developer think, boss, this is not a defect, you are wrong, then he can anytime reject the defect by saying rejected or by putting the status as rejected. Okay, that time your defect is in the rejected state and he will put the comment why he think that this is not a defect and he is rejecting. Okay, for example, suppose Facebook logo is blue in color. Okay, Facebook logo is blue in color. This is the expected behavior. Okay, if you will see Facebook application, background and everything is blue in color. Okay, but still you are raising the defect that Facebook logo should be black in color. So that is the wrong thing, right? So developer can anytime reject your defect. Ki boss, you are wrong. Facebook should be blue in color. This is right. Why you are logging defect for the Facebook should be black in color? You are wrong. So anytime he can reject it. Okay, he can anytime reject the defect. This is the second thing. Third is deferred. Suppose uh, uh, suppose you are assigning the defect to the developer, and if developer has other defects also to fix, if developer is quite busy, or is or if developer doesn't have the correct environment, correct knowledge, or if he doesn't have a time to fix that defect, or if that defect is not very important to fix it immediately, then that time developer can mark that status as the deferred. He can say, boss, I will fix this defect next month. This month I cannot fix this defect due to the following reasons. Due to the, he can put the comment that I will fix this defect next month in the next release or in the next phase. Okay, this time I cannot do it because this defect is not very important and I have no knowledge to fix it, or I don't have the environment. Okay, so this way, whatever your defect is saying, according to that you will mark the status. Okay, so remember this diagram thoroughly. It's very important thing in software testing. Okay, so whatever I've explained to you, that here it is putting in framework in a kind of a definition. New, this is the first state of a defect. When any new defect is found, it will fall in a new state. Very simple. When any new defect found, its status will be new. Then we have assigned. Assign means whenever a newly created defect is assigned to the development team or the developer to work on the defect, that is that time that defect is in the assigned state. Okay, that time that defect is in the assigned state. Then we have a open. When the developer starts the process of analyzing the defect and works on fixing it if required. That means when developers start seeing that defect, start thinking how will I fix it, that time he will mark the status as open, right? So that if anyone can see status open, he can easily say now developer is working on it because its status is open. Okay, then okay, so you should remember from the name, if your defect is in a new state, that means defect is just being found and it is not assigned. If defect is in the assigned state, that means it is already being assigned to someone. If defect is in the open state, that means developer has already started working on it. Okay, and as we have discussed, duplicate, deferred, rejected, or not a bug. So if developer feels that the defect is not appropriate or defect is wrong, he can, or if defect is duplicate, he can anytime mark it as duplicate defect. If he finds that he will fix the defect in the future month, then he will mark it as a deferred. If he found that this is not a defect, this is correct thing, then he can reject that defect. That time the defect will be in the rejected state. If we think this is not a bug, okay, if he's saying, boss, you are wrong, this is not a bug, you are mistaken, that time that defect is in the not a bug status. On that duplicate, deferred, rejected, not a bug, that status has been assigned by the developer. Tester cannot mark it, only development team can mark this. Okay, then we have a fix. When the developer finishes the task of fixing the defect by doing some changes, that time he will mark the status as fixed. So remember, who can give the which status? New tester can give the new status, tester can give the assigned status, development team can give the open status, tester can give the fixed status. So remember like this. Okay. Then we have a pending retest. If suppose a development team after fixing uh, send the defect back to you, please retest. But if somewhere you are busy and you are unable to do retest, then you can mark it as pending retest, that I still have to retest it, so this is pending. Okay. And if you start testing it again, the tester starts the task of retesting the defect. Okay, that time you will make it as retest. That was, I am after fixing by the development team, I am fixing it again. That time you will mark it as retest. Okay, after retesting, if you will still think that boss, this Rahul has not fixed the defect, that defect still exists, it is still persist. Okay, that defect has not closed, then you will change the status to reopen and you will again assign back to the development team, developers, please fix it, it is still not fixed. Verified, if that okay, verified you can ignore this, this is not required. Verified means if everything goes fine, everything is tested, okay, then that means you can close the defect, so it is just the verification point. Then finally we have a closed, when defect does not exist any longer. Suppose when development team ask you to retest, and when you are retesting it and you find everything is working fine, okay, development team has already fixed the defect, that time you will mark it as closed, that boss, now the defect is being closed now. Okay, so you can mark it as closed, that means that defect does not exist any longer. Okay, this is just the definition. Rejected, if the defect is not considered a genuine defect by the developer, then it is marked as rejected. If the developer finds the defect as same as any other defect, then he can mark it as duplicate. If the developer feels that the defect is not a very important priority and it can be fixed in the next release or the next month, he can change the status of the defect as deferred. Okay, next we have a not a bug. If that defect does not have any impact on the functionality of the application, suppose you are logging a very a defect which has no meaning. Okay, that time you can mark, development team can say, then that time development team can say that this is not a bug. You are telling something, any XYZ thing, this is not valid, this is not a bug. Suppose in the Facebook application you are giving very silly bug. For example, you are saying in any of the sentence or emojis you are saying is or 1 minute, for example, yeah, so, suppose you are saying in the comment section we are not able to enter the capital letters, so that makes no sense, we can anytime enter the small letters as well, right? So if that bug has no meaning, then development team can anytime mark it as a not a bug. Okay, this is one thing. Okay, then then going forward, see, whenever you will find any defect, okay, whenever, then any tool, then you have to log that defect in a particular tool. Okay, in a particular tool means either Jira tool, test management tools, either HPALM, QC, whatever the tools which has been given by your company, okay, which has been given by your company, that time whatever tools are given, uh, in that tool you have to log your defect. So when you are raising your defect, you have to fill certain fields. Suppose for example, when you are opening any account, uh, in the bank, right, then there is a form in which you have to fill all the fields, right? Same way in the tool or anywhere where you will log the defect, you have to fill on these on these parameters. Just 1 second. Yeah, so you have to fill on these parameters, like the name of the person who has find out the defect, by doing which kind of a testing, ad hoc, smoke, sanity regression you have found the defect, the complete description of a defect, what the steps to reproduce, how you have reproduced the step. Suppose suppose you found any defect in the Facebook story part, so your step should be enter the URL, enter the username, enter the password. These all are the steps how you can reproduce it. Okay, in which environment, what is the severity and priority. Okay, so who is the owner, who is the to whom you have assigned that defect. So there are certain parameters depend on the different tools which you have to provide the information. Okay, then okay, then we have a certain terminologies like non-reproducible defect and producible defect. Simple, very simple, understand the concept. Producible means defect means uh, what a defect that is occurring in every execution. Okay, and whose steps can be captured in every execution. I mean to say a defect which anyone can find it again and again, valid defect. That defect called the producible, you can easily produce again and again, right? Non-reproducible defect means, suppose in the morning you found one any defect, okay, but in the evening you are unable to find the same defect. That means it is non-reproducible. So, for example, a defect that is not occurring repeatedly in every execution. I mean, in the morning you can see that defect, but in the evening you can't see that defect. Okay, so that time you can see, and in the morning when you are logging that defect, you are already took the screenshot, but in the evening you can see that defect is no longer present. That now it is fine. So that means that defect is a not reproducible. That means sometimes you can see the defect, sometimes not. That is called a non-reproducible defect. Okay, then once you log any defect after going the defect life cycle, right? And after logging the defect by giving the different parameters, okay, then you will create one report. Being an experienced candidate, after a 1 year or 2 year, your manager will ask you that, please, Akash, you are a tester, please prepare that defect report. So the defect report is nothing but it is a document that includes the defect information, the reporting. That means defect report means how many defects are open, how many defects are closed, how many defects you have retested. Okay, how many defects are in the duplicate state, how many defects are in the deferred state, what we have discussed here, right? These all are the states. So the defect report will give you the complete picture. That was 5 defects are in the open state, 6 are closed, 2 are in the pending retest, 4 are rejected. So this way you can uh, tabulize, you can give the table and you can give the report. Every organization will provide you the different format of the table. Okay, so what details you have to include in the defect report? Defect ID. Whenever you are log any defect in the tool, it will create one ID. Suppose in the Shoppers Stop website, if you will shop anything, okay, then if you will order anything, your order ID will be created, right? Same way, when you will log any defect, your defect ID will be created. So in the defect report, you can give the defect ID, description of the defect, test it is reproducible or not, what is the status, new, open, fixed, assigned, what is its severity and priority, okay, who has logged the defect, tester name, okay, in which environment, when you have found the defect, to whom you have assigned, name of the person who has fixed the defect, screenshot of the defects, and yeah, and screenshot of the defect, fixing the, okay, so all these things you have to give in the defect status report. Okay, then we have a, when is a defect change. Okay, so deferred status we have already discussed. When a defect will be found is of no importance, no high importance, then it can be fixed in the future month. That is called the deferred. Okay, so now here we have I have used the term severity and priority of the defect. So by the name itself, severity and priority means how important that bug is for the company or for the application. See, when you have a 10 work in a single day, you will prioritize, okay, which work is important and which work is not important, right? You will prioritize. So that is called the priority. So suppose you have a 20 test cases, okay, you will prioritize which test cases I have to do it first or which last. So suppose you have a defects to retest. Okay, suppose you have a defects to retest. You have a 10 defects. Then you will prioritize which defect is important, which I will test it first and which I will test it last. Okay, and severity is that means it has some impact on the what impact it made on the application. Suppose any defect is a blocker. That means that defect is very important to fix because you cannot proceed further. That means it's a blocker. If the defect is critical, if the defect is major or minor, minor means you can fix it later on. So these all come under severity and priority. Critical, major, minor is your severity, and priority is high, medium, low. If it's of high priority, then it's a high. If it's a medium, then it's a medium, and if it's a low, then it's a low. So this is all about today. Going forward, yeah, we will first we will revise and then we will take the going forward things. So anyone has any question? If no, then we can wind up the call. Okay. Guys, please reply if anyone has any questions. Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay, fine. Fine. So thank you so much. So we will meet tomorrow at the same time, 7 o'clock. Okay. And by tomorrow, I will try to give you